Welcome back to another week of masterclasses. We are now on patch 14.3. It came out yesterday on the 7th, and we will be talking about the 5 best comps to play. They're not actually 5 individual comps. One of them is like a style of play. I'll get into that in a second. But these comps will help you gain LP, top 4, even get some wins, and really help you out on the new patch. So let's get straight into it. The best comps on 14.3, we're going to talk about how to play around Superfans. So you can play really flexibly around a certain base of the Superfans, and there's many different lines that you can go into. So we'll talk about what the different lines are, how to play them, itemization, positioning, augments, everything. After the Superfan reroll, we'll talk about the new EDM reroll. It's not actually new, it's been played before. However, with the recent EDM buffs to Jax and Lux's damage, it has now come back into meta, mostly Lux, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Riven, how to play it, why it's better than Yone. Heartsteel Flex, it's still here. Stage 5 and 6 was nerfed a bit. However, the comp is still strong, still very playable. And then the same thing, Pentakill. Although there was an adjustment to Karthus, comp is still good. Mordekaiser nerfed a little bit, but still very playable as well. If anyone has any questions, feel free to either unmute your mic and ask, or type in the chat. And any big questions, you could leave them for the end, and we'll answer it then. Here we go, 5 best comps to play on the new patch 14.3. The first one we're going to talk about is a style of play. So this revolves around Superfans. So this is a Superfan reroll comps. We basically have a base that we play, and then based off of our items or just early units that we pick up, we could decide what to do from there. So our base is Lilia, Kennen, and Nico. So these are our 3 Superfans, right? And we already get Guardian between the Kennen and the Nico. And then our 4th base that we will play in most of these comps is Echo. And then Echo will share Sentinel with the Lilia and true damage with the Kennen. So there are many synergies here. These 4 units, they just work out very well together. And actually I think all the time, we'll be itemizing the Nico. Even in the true damage comp, remember the more true damage that you play, so vertical true damage is just the damage, and Echo doesn't really do damage. So Nico is tankier. Some cases, if you have a Echo 2 and a Nico 1, then you'll have to itemize the Echo just to save HP and play strongest board. But ideally, we're going to be 3-starring our Nico in most of these comps and putting our items on her. Okay, so the variations to play, I talked about 6 variations, and I think these are the best for this current patch. There are some other like hidden ones, I think, maybe like 1 or 2, but these are the main ones. First one, we have Emo Annie, Crowd Diver Katarina. Technically, this is also country. We have True Damage Senna, which is new as of this patch. Pentakill Kayle, which is pretty recent. It got nerfed a little bit to our headliner attack speed, but still good. KDA Seraphine, nothing new, and then Spellweaver Lulu. So without further ado, let's get straight into the first 2. So Annie and Katarina. We'll talk about Annie first, the top board here. We want to be looking for an emo headliner. This is going to be our level 6 board. And this is kind of just our like mid-game like strongest board. Eventually we'll be going level 8, of course, and playing 2 extra emos. So this is going to be our Vex and our Mumu. So Mumu will be somewhere in the front line, Vex will be somewhere in the back line, depending on our KD hexes, and that will give us 4 emo. This is nothing new, so I'll go pretty quick into it. With 4 emo, once we have our Shojin on Annie, and eventually we drop our Superfans, we add a blue buff to the Annie. She will cast every 2 auto attacks at 30 mana, and with Shojin, that's 15 plus 15, 30s, and she is able to cast very quick, get her passive going, and then really take over the board. So we will be playing Annie if we have either pumping up on 2-1 because she scales extremely well with attack speed, or learning to spell because she does AP damage. She's a magic damage dealer, and it's very good. Her Superfan item is going to be Jewel Gauntlet, and it is okay to play Superfans early to mid game. Like Jewel Gauntlet, free item is free item, and it helps you stabilize really hard. However, the maximum cap is to drop the Superfans, but early to mid, it's still fine to play, and it's still perfectly good for tempo. Ideally for items, we want to either have like a tier, bow, or sword start, or ideally like all 3, because our main 2 items we're going to be making is going to be the Shojin and Nashers. Sometimes we can't even drop the Superfans later because it requires us to get 2 extra tiers, and we already have to invest a tier into the Shojin. So it is a bit tough to find perfect BIS event for our maximum cap, but this is still a very suitable board for early mid and even early late. So that is the Annie board. Very good. It's playable with Spellweaver, but Emo Headliner is definitely a lot better. Annie doesn't do anything without Emo, and unless you find like the 3 costs like Vex or a Mumu, and you have a Spellweaver Annie, she won't be doing anything until 2 emo is activated. So that's that. Make sure to itemize your Nico, and eventually you want to 3-star her, and that will be your good front line. Okay, so that is Annie. Next one is Katarina. So I mentioned you could play either country or crowd diver. It just varies the board a little bit. I'll talk about the crowd diver version, but I'll talk about the country at the end. The item you will be getting from Superfans is Hodge. So this is really good on Katarina. We're basically going to be playing Katarina if we either have a Hodge or Jill gauntlet already. So this is going to be glove tier or like glove rod, or your best case scenario is all three. So like glove, tier, and rod. And then if we get any early Superfans or Katarinas, I forgot to mention that for Annie. If you get like early Annies or like early Superfan start, or even just like a emo Annie and you have a tier, then that will be an indicator for you to play that specific variation of the Superfan reroll comp. I mentioned you could play either or, and ideally you're going to be capping out with 3-star Nico and 6 crowd diver, which is only possible with the crowd diver chosen. So this is going to be our level 7 board. The way to play... Oh, actually, I forgot to mention for Annie. I'll talk about Katarina first. The way to play Katarina is you're going to be rolling down on level 6. So this will be either on 3-2 if you're on standard tempo, or 3-5 if you're a little bit behind tempo. You're going to be rolling down on level 6, or leveling to 6 first, and then rolling down for your Katarina headliner and to stabilize. This means to get a couple 2-stars. Once you find that Katarina headliner, she'll automatically be a 2-star, and you will have ideally really good items for her, because one, we're only playing this comp if we have Jewel Gauntlet or Hodge already available from early, and because we will be most likely Lulu streaking early, we will have Carousel priority and be able to get Biss. So with a little bit of stabilization, we can slowly make our way to level 7, and then on the crowd diver version, we could fit this board on level 7 super strong and start slow rolling for our Katarina 3 and our Nico 3, and also rolling for our Zed, because we're now level 7, we have a 10% chance of seeing a 4-cost unit. So that's how you play Katarina. Remember, this is the crowd diver version. Once you are able to find Kiana, then you drop the Echo, and you play Kiana plus the, I forget his name, Yone. And then that will be your 6 crowd diver, and you're good to go. But this is a very good early game board, or early to mid game board for Katarina. And if you have the country version, then you will be dropping Echo and playing the Thresh instead. And then once you have Thresh, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You could play 4 crowd divers. You will not be able to play 6 crowd divers with the country chosen. But at least you play a Thresh and you get the horse, and it's still pretty decent. You actually stabilize a lot harder mid-game with the country version, because you're able to play 3 country very easily, and that helps out a lot. So that's how you play Katarina. I forgot to mention for Annie board, for the Annie board, you don't want to be leveling at all early game. So then this way you'll still be level 4 by the time 3-1 comes, and then this is right after 2-7, which is Krugs. And because you're level 4, you have the highest percent chance of seeing a 1-cost headliner and the highest percent chance of seeing 1-cost. So you'll be rolling down on 3-1 on level 4, and you'll hopefully hit your Annie 3-star, or first like your Annie headliner and then your Annie 3-star. But ideally you want to be hitting on this stage, and then you can slowly start to pump levels and look to 3-star your Nico, or just pump levels for level 8 to get your 4 emo in. But that's how it works. So 1-cost rerolls, you'll always be like level 4, and then 2-cost rerolls, you'll be going level 6 first, on level 3 on either 3-2 or 3-5, and then going level 7 and slow rolling on level 7. So these are the first 2. Annie, Katarina, super good. The next 2 is going to be Senna and Kayle. So Senna is a new one. Her ability damage got increased at all star levels, and this actually puts her back into the meta. So we'll ignore this side first. Basically, you get the Shojin, Spear Shojin from Superfan, and ideally you want to be going a rapid fire headliner. You'll be playing Senna if you either get blinged out 2-1, which is the true damage trait augments, or if you have some sort of true damage spat to either like mid game, or you like find a spat like on your carousel, something like that. This will be an indication to play Senna. Ideally, you want to either have a bow or a rod start, because the 2 items you're going to be building on Senna is Nashers and Rabadons. And then to cap out, you want to have a true damage spat and eventually find Kiana, because Yasuo is just not ideal. If Yasuo is not your main carry, you really don't want him on your board. He doesn't do anything. And yeah, so I'll scratch these out for a second. This is going to be your main mid-game board. So we have the same base of Echo, Nico, Lilia, Kennen. We're going to be playing an Kayle as our duo carry. So Edge and Knight, Giant Slayer, Infinity Edge. You could put Hodge on her. Technically, she doesn't need healing because her Blink bonus is already healing. And this is a really strong 4 true damage, 3 Superfan, 3 KDA rapid fire board. And then you want to position Senna wherever the biggest enemy clump is. Normally, it will be in the middle, so you can at least hit the 3 frontline units. But if they're clumped on the left or the right, you just move Senna accordingly. Once you have your true damage spats, you can look to play something like an Ahri. Ahri will fit the 3 KDA after our Nico and our Lilia, and then you put a blue buff on her, and she's also a very good carry. True damage spat on her will allow her to basically 2-tap anyone she hits, and then Qiyana as her 6 true damage, and this is our level 8 board. Very strong, start farming items with Qiyana, and you're in a good spot. One thing to note, technically it is easier to find 6 true damage if you have the true damage chosen. However, rapid fire is necessary on Senna to be able to function like very well. And if we don't have rapid fire, then we'd have to play something like a Caitlyn, which is still okay if we put like a true damage spat and then some items such as like Infinity Edge or Giant Slayer. However, I think this version is a little bit stronger, and also it's a lot easier to fit on level 6 like this. So that's Senna, back in the meta, super good, give it a try. And then these are the conditions to play it. And then Kayle has been around for a patch and a little bit. Her Superfan item is Rageblade, and ideally you want to be going the Edge Lord Headliner. You can play this if you get early Superfan start or Kayles, and with a rod, because she's an AP damage dealer and she will be using a lot of rods. As I mentioned, Rageblade is her Superfan item. You would want to be building a Gunblade, so sword plus rod, and then your last item can be anything, technically not anything. It could be another Rageblade, it could be a Jewel Gauntlet, a Giant Slayer, and Archangels. And yeah, this is fine. I think another Rageblade or Archangels is a little bit better than the other options, but these are our backup just in case we don't have the items. This is the board you'll be playing. I think you cut out Viego and Karthus early, and then you just play around the KDA Superfan Pentakill board, but eventually you slot these in just to get 5 Pentakill, and then eventually once you itemize your Kayle, your Viego, your Karthus, you'll be able to cap out, especially if you find York. Remember that Kayle's shred, innate shred, is only 20%, so building something like a spark is still fine, and you want to be putting your items on Mordekaiser. It's pretty hard to 3-star your Mordekaiser. If you get a lot of Nikos, you could do like the 3-star Nico and then itemize her instead. But that's only if you find a lot of Nikos early or have the econ. In this case, Kayle's not going to be the solo carry just because we have so many other potential ones. So we don't have to be just slow rolling for Nico after we hit Kayle on level 7. And then same thing, because these are both two cost carries, it's the exact same thing as Katarina. We're going to be going level 6 on either 3-2 or 3-5. These are just the perfect intervals for leveling to 6 on this case. Find the headliner, and then stabilize, and then slowly start going level 7, and then slow roll on level 7 for our 3-star carry. The difference between 6 to 7 is only 5% for 2 costs. So it's normally 40% for a 2-cost slot on level 6, and then it goes to 35. So it's really not that much, and it allows us to hit our board a lot easier, or at least the rest of our board a lot easier, and just allows us to spike. So 5% diff, it's a no diff. It's a little bit of a diff, but it's okay. It's worth it in the long run. And yeah, so that's Senna and Kayle, very good. And then our very last ones, Seraphine and Lulu, there's no change to these. They've been very good, and they are continuing to be very good. One of the main reasons is Rabadon's just such a good item, and that's Seraphine's Superfan item. So here we go, the same base, right? Echo, Nico, Lilia, Kennen. We want to be going for a KDA headliner, and we want to be playing this if either we get, same thing, like it's the same conditions. You get Superfans early, you get the specific unit early, so like a Seraphine early, and items, right? So 2-1 if we have a Shojin available, or like a Morello available, plus a sword or a tier, then we're good to go. Best in the slots is Shojin and Morello, and then as I mentioned, you get the Rabadons. You want to have some sort of anti-heal plus shred, so anti-heal comes from the Morello, and then shred can come from our Nico. As a lower cap than Lulu, but because it's a 2-star, it's so much easier to hit, and you're able to stabilize a lot faster. And eventually you're going to cap out by 3-starring your frontline, which is going to be Nico, and then either duoing a Lulu 3 or an Arya 2, just depending on whatever you hit first. But you're going to need some more tiers, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, so pretty good. Seraphine, super good. And then the last one for superfans we could talk about is Lulu. Her superfan item is Shojin, and you want to be going for a hyperpop headliner. I ran through the board variations. I think just 3 hyperpop is just stronger than 5 spellweaver, so that's why that is the case. We're going to need a lot of tiers, so either tier start or you get the hologram augments on 2-1 or 3-2, because with the hologram augments we get another Lulu and hyperpop procs from that clone Lulu, and then they basically just hyperpop each other and then infinite cast into more hyperpop, and then the whole board dies and everyone gets attack speed. It's super good. Lulu is going to be a 3 cost, so this is a little different than the other superfan boards we're rolling for. We're going to be rolling on level 7 for Lulu Chosen, so most of the time this will be on 4-1 or 3-5 if you're extremely rich, but most of the time it'll be 4-1 and you play just some sort of carry beforehand. You can even play like Seraphine headliner before Lulu if your items, I don't know, if you somehow have like a blue buff slammed early or just have the hologram augment, then you could just have some sort of item holder and then transition into Lulu. Harder to hit than Seraphine because it's a 3 cost but has a higher cap, and in this case we have to do either Ahri or the Ziggs, not the Seraphine, as opposed to the Seraphine board where we could do either Ahri or Lulu. Seraphine without being your headliner is just not a good unit because she doesn't have that double cast. So if you are playing Lulu Reroll, get the Lulu headliner. You do not want to be carrying Seraphine as your duo, and either carry your Ahri or a Ziggs instead. And then you cap out with Ziggs, get your 3 hyperpop online, some sort of frontline, Alawi, Thresh 2, anything is fine, 3-star your Nikio in the front line, and you're good to go. So super strong boards, all these are very viable. Just keep an eye out for superfans early. Keep an eye out for the specific units, so like your Annie, Katarina, based off your items, and look out for any augment that can steer you in the direction of this composition. So those are the 6 superfan reroll comps I recommend playing on this patch. Technically this could have been a video on its own, but I think that's fine. The next type is going to be EDM. So we're out of the superfans and we're going to more like level 7 comps now. So Lux and Jax got their ability damage buffed and they're pretty good. However, I think Lux is just a better version, and I would only play Jax if you have Zhonya's or just like so many Jaxes early and like Bis, so like Jewel Gauntlets, Hodge, and then +1. If not, then I would just play Lux. I'll explain at the very end why it's a little bit tougher to play Lux, but for now we'll just go through it. So it's back to front, magic damage, fast-paced comp. The concept of Lux is to position opposite side of the enemy main carry, the enemy main ranged carry, and just pop it at the start of the fight, and then with your Gunblade you can heal up the rest of your EDM units, and then everyone just starts casting with the Lux lasers, and it's a light show, and that's how you win. So that is the concept of Lux. You're going to be on level 7, so once again either 4-1 or 3-5. Most of the time it'll be 4-1. Find the headliner, which is going to be EDM, so then you could fit 5 EDM, and then slow roll on level 7 to 3-star her. And since you're level 7, you'll have a 10% chance of seeing 4 cost units, so you could find Zed and your Zac pretty easy. Maybe not pretty easy, but you are able to find them. You can easily fit Heartsteel in mid game for a rejuice, so because we're going to be playing Set to pair Bruiser with our Zac, we can easily just fit in other Heartsteel units, so either like a Yone K'Sante or like a Yone Aphelios. Get a quick rejuice, maybe 8 gold, maybe 11 gold, or like a component, and then we take out Heartsteel and we play our strongest board. With this EDM comp, because of the timing or like the frequency, the other EDM units do not need to be gaining mana in order to use the sampled units cast. So what I mean by this is we want to be trapping our Jax in like either the bottom right corner if we're aiming for like the top left, and then vice versa in the bottom left corner if we're aiming for the enemy top right. And what's going to happen is once the frequency reaches Jax, so either, well, it depends on how many EDM you have, but maybe after like 6 seconds or something like that, then the Jax will use the Lux 3 cast, and that's very good. This way Jax doesn't just run around to the front line and as a 2-cost unit with no items just die, and then we lose that EDM cast. So that's why we want to trap. And then on the bottom left, once we have Alawi, it's a lot easier, but without Alawi it's a bit tougher. It's actually sometimes impossible if you don't have an extra range unit, because you need to trap 1, 2, 3 as opposed to just 1, 2. So this is how you play it. Best in slot on the Lux. Rabadon's extremely good on her. There's no percentage bonus damage from EDM or Dazzler. So percentage bonus damage we're going to need from the Rabadons. Gunblade to heal up our units. especially our EDM units, so then they just keep casting with the Lux. And then our last one could be Archangels, Jewel Gauntlet, or Shojin. I think Shojin is playable, but it's definitely not as good. Because of the EDM frequency, we don't need to be generating mana, right? We just need to be like waiting X amount of seconds. So then if you think about this, right, our main build will be like, oh, Rabadon's Gunblade or Archangel or Jewel Gauntlet. And because of this, we have no mana gen, which means that playing like item holders coming up into this comp will be units that have no mana gen. So that's a bit tougher. The only cases that I think, or not the only cases, but like units that would be a good item holder for Lux is if we're playing like Superfans and then we play like a Senna, because then we get a Shojin. Or we're playing Superfans and then we get like a Lux early. Or not Lux, a Lulu, then we have a Shojin. So something like that. That's the one problem that I find with Lux Reroll, as opposed to like, oh, if you have a Shojin on 2-1, then you could play anything you want. You could play Lulu, you could play Seraphine, you could play TF, you could play who knows, right? So that's the only thing that I've noticed with the Lux comp, the mana versus like the EDM frequency and how they work together. And then the very last thing, augments. So Jewel Lotus 3, extremely good in this comp. Shopping Spree is the econ that will help you hit your entire board. March of Progress, same thing, econ. Unleash Arcana, it gives you Jewel Gauntlet and a Rabadon's and a Rod, which is half Gunblade. So it's basically our 1, 2, and then half. So it is really good comp, or really good augment. And our Harmesis, healing never hurts. We're doing a lot of damage here. We just need to be able to survive. So this is how you play EDM Lux Reroll. I'm going to talk about how to counter it. So this is positioning against Lux. This will be like your board, and then this will be like the enemy board. So the way the targeting works, Lux will always target the farthest enemy unit. So then what you want to be doing, so I'll say like this is you, and then this is your enemy board. You want to be positioning on the same side, because Lux will first hit the farthest targets, and then anything in between. And then it will hit the next closest target and then the next closest target. So this is how it's going to work, 1, 2, and 3. So you want to be positioning your main carry on the same side. The one thing to note is this number 3 here, you want this to be a frontline unit that stays alive, but not your main tank. Because remember, this is just one of your matchups. So you want to have your main tank on the same side as your carry, so that they don't get run over by like other matchups, because you don't know for sure you're playing against Lux. So this is how you ideally position against Lux. You can do this pretty easily if like they're doing the trap Jax positioning. So then they have it like this and then Jax is here. The reason why is then it's a lot harder for them to swap very fast, or sometimes impossible, right? If they don't have Alawi to go over to the left side. Because with this positioning, if they're not like trapping and they're just playing Lux, if they like swap over here, then we're dead. So something to note is if you scout and you see like, oh, they're gonna have a really hard time swapping fast, then you could just position like this. This is ideal. But if they're not trapping and they can swap fast, then it's best to just middle our carry. So then at least we're not getting hit right away, and we can survive 1 hit, hopefully kill enough, and then like somehow kill the Lux just through like overpowering it. So this is how you position it against Lux and positioning as Lux, and this is EDM Reroll. I'm going to keep going because we're kind of running out of time. So next one is 8-bit Riven Reroll. Garen got a buff, so he now gets more HP whenever he casts. Caitlyn got a 15 mana buff, so this is 2 auto attacks faster. And then Mordekaiser got a damage nerf, but that's okay because in 8-bits, Riven Mordekaiser is just a tank anyway. So Riven is a front to back physical damage composition. You're going to be level 7, once again 4135. Look for an 8-bit headliner, it's better than Edgelord, and then slow roll for your 3-star Riven. You won't really be 3-starring any other units in this comp, so just focus on the Riven and then start pumping levels. Make sure you have some sort of healing reduction, so you can either do either Sunfire or like a red buff on the Caitlyn, or like Blistering Strikes, and some sort of Sunder, so either Even Shroud or Mordekaiser, or Last Whisper on the Caitlyn. And yeah, we're going to need a lot of cloaks. Best in slot is QS, BT, Giant Slayer, but in reality we just need, well, we need QS for sure. I'll talk about why right after. Healing and then some damage. So this could be like Hodge plus Infinity Edge, or it could be Titans plus BT. But you need QS, healing, and then damage. The reason why QS is so necessary on Riven as opposed to like something like a Yone is because Riven's damage comes when she activates her ability, and then she has X amount of time of uptime for her ability to actually activate, which is when she auto attacks and then deals more damage to the target she's auto attacking and adjacent units. So because you have an X amount of uptime, you want to be making as much use of that as possible. Because let's say she activates her ability, right? She gets a shield. Now for the next, I think 6 seconds, she deals more damage and then around her, but then she CC'd for half of it. Then, well, the ability's gone in 3 seconds and we're back to just regular auto attacking. So that's why Qs is so important. And then the more, if you're able to output consistent damage, you're able to heal consistently. And this is just QS is important. As opposed to Yone, which if he CC'd, okay, well, that kind of sucks. But then when he casts, he like one shots, heals the full, and he's good to go. So that's why we need QS on Riven or some sort of crowd control mitigation. So like a Banshee's Veil or like Indomitable Will. And then we could build around that. Best install augments, Jewel Gauntlet 3, just more damage. And then that's really good. Shopping Spree, March Progress, we're rerolling right. Insert Coin is the 8-bit specific one. Harvest Vampirism is extra healing for our comp, which is super good. And then, as I mentioned, once you 3-star your Riven, you're going to cap up by pumping levels. You want to play Jazz, so Illusion over your ranged Rapid Fire. And then you want to play extra Jazz. You also play Alawi, or if you get an 8-bit emblem, so Spat plus a bow, you're going to put it on your Viego, and then play a Corki for 6 8-bits, and hopefully go for that big cash out. So this is how you play Riven. Very good. Better than Yone, because everyone's contesting. Heartsteel, which is still good. Stage 5 and 6 was nerfed, but still extremely playable. This is a physical damage composition, and as you can see, stage 5 and 6 hearts were halved for kills, and then Set just got an HP and damage nerf. Still very very good. This is level 8 comp. You'll be rolling down for a Heartsteel Ezreal or a Zed Chosen on 4-1 or 4-2. And then on your Zed, make sure you have Edge of Night plus some sort of healing and damage. So Edge of Night is mandatory. Hodge, Giant Slayer, Deathblade, Runons, this is all fine. And then if he's in threat of like someone dealing damage to him or like proccing his Edge of Night, you just position him back one and you're good to go. Ezreal best in slots is blue buff plus IE plus some sort of extra damage. So this could be this could be a red buff, this could be a crown guard, or sorry, not crown guard, guard breaker, wrong guard. But yeah, don't build crown guard. It's a blue buff, infinity edge, red buff, or like guard breaker. Any of these are fine. Or any like Ornn items like a sniper's focus is very good on Ezreal as well. And then eventually you cap out with level 9 with this board, like play your 5 costs, York 2, Alawi 2, Lucian 2, all these are good. And then before you get to this board, you could play 5 Heartsteel on stage 3, or you play 5 Heartsteel on early stage 4, and just drop some of your strong units just for that extra Heartsteel. Most of the time, it's easier if you have a Heartsteel +1, so either from your Heartsteel Chosen or a emblem, and then you just drop something like either, well, if you don't have Lucian yet, which is pretty high roll, then you can just play like a Heartsteel, so like a Yone over this, and that's perfectly fine. And then our last one, I'll talk in like 1 minute because this comp has been around for like 1 month. Pentakill Karthus. Karthus's ability damage is altered, so the first cast no longer deals as much damage, but subsequent casts deal more. Back to front comp. That means we target the enemy backline first before we target the enemy front line. You have multiple carries, Viego, Akali, York, Karthus. This is going to be a level 8 board, so either 4-1 or 4-2. Most of the time 4-2. You're going to look for a headliner, which is going to ideally be Viego, so Pentakill Viego. The reason why is the Superfan item for Viego is Titans, which is a lot better than an Archangels on Karthus, who is already getting AP the longer the fight goes. Position Akali opposite side of the enemy carry, so she jumps, procs, or hits the enemy into the execution range for Karthus. And then best in slot on Karthus, it basically uses any item, so Shojin plus anything, so like Rabadon, Jewel Gauntlet, Nashor is adaptive. Morello is very good for healing reduction, you always need healing reduction. Guardbreaker is very good, even a Rage Blade is fine on him because now his initial burst is not as important and you want him to be casting as often as possible, so Mana Gen is more valuable on him. Best augments, Metalheads, Vampirism, Harm Assist, any of this is fine. Yeah, pretty good comp. And then you cap out with York 2 and a Pentakill Spat. Very last one is a variation that I want to show in case you don't hit your Pentakill Viego. Let's say you hit like Executioner Karthus, then or Executioner Viego or Executioner Kayle. It's a little bit weaker. You play 4 Executioners now. It's a bit weaker because of the new nerfs, but basically this is your board. You play 4 exec, you play 3 Pentakill, you duo you trio your executioners, so Akali, Vex, and Karthus. And if you get a Pentaspat, then you drop some item on a Kayle, probably this, because you need healing, of course. Drop the move for a Pentakill unit like a Viego or ideally a York for Guardian. And you get 5 Penta, 4 Executioner, 3 Superfan, 3 KDA, and you're good to go. So, pretty jam-packed class today. Many comps that you could play. I'll quickly sum everything up in like 30 seconds. Superfan reroll, you could play Emo, Annie, Crowddiver Katarina, Senna, Kayle, Seraphine, Lulu. Pick up Superfans early if you're looking to reroll. Look out for the unit specifically based off of your items or your augments. So if you get like blinged out, then you're looking for Senna. And or if you don't have a specific augment, but you have a lot of gloves and like a rod and a tier, you're looking for Katarinas or something like that. Or like Evelyn's to like build up to that Katarina. So your items will influence what variation you'll play from this base. After the reroll comps, we have EDM Lux Reroll, very good. You'll be on level 7 for quite a while. Positioning against Lux, remember that, so you don't lose around. 8-bit Riven Reroll, same thing, level 7, 3-cost reroll, very good. Heartsteel Flex, still good, a little bit risky. And then Pentakill Karthus, yeah. So that's all for me. Thank you everyone for who stuck around, and I hope you learned something from today's class. This will be on YouTube in a little bit, and now I'm